Welcome back. It's that time. As a blockchain enthusiast, I'm super excited about this one. I'm sure you fanatics are too. It's a panel on NFT madness or real value for the music industry. We are joined by the one and only Cliff Fluitt, who is the managing director of 11. He's hosting the panel today. Cliff has over 2 decades of experience with some of the world's biggest brands and names. He's also working with disruptive businesses in blockchain and cryptography as well. He's joined by a fantastic panel: John Aquaviva, co-founder and managing partner of Plus 8 Equity Partners. And John, I remember you DJing from back in the day. Ali Samadpur, founder of Prescient Digital. Rick Heffen, head of business development at Utopia Genesis Foundation. Tim Exile, a producer and a performer. And last but by no means least, Sarah Filler, otherwise known as Sarah, who's a singer-songwriter and a record producer. So Cliff, it's over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Walifornia Summit. You're very, very welcome to our session on NFTs. Is this all madness or real value for the music industry? I've been saying to people, if my life was Sesame Street, it would be brought to you by the letters N, F, and T at the moment. Over the last 3 months, I've been working on about 30 different NFT type issues as well. And I'm seeing it through the world of brands. I'm seeing it through the world of comic books. I'm seeing it through the world of collectibles, of sports, and of course, my first love in relation to music. One of the questions that people really want to understand about NFTs or non-fungible tokens is this hype or is it real? Is this sign of a long-term value or is this yet another bubble that's going to disappear? And in order to unpack that, the team at Walifornia have pulled together this brilliant team in order to be able to give you every aspect and every angle of it. So to start off, I'm going to ask each of my panelists to tell you a little bit more about them and what they do. And I'm going to ask them some questions and then hopefully bring out all the real value. So I'm going to hand the virtual mic to John to introduce himself to the team.
A pleasure to be part of this group, and forgive me, I'm trying to be in 2 places at once, got stuck in traffic. I'd like to say I was driving to a rave, but anyways, longtime DJ. I met a guy called Rich Houghton, and together we started a label called Plus 8 Records, really around techno music. So we believed in technology, and that was in 1990. The world took us to heart. So it's been a pleasure to be kind of invited around places, world stage, to speak and most often play music. On the first decade, we did all things analog. We had our own vinyl plant. When the world took a paradigm shift from analog to digital, it wasn't lost on us. We hung our hat on technology. We called our music techno. So I made an investment into a technology called Final Scratch, which got patented, became Tractor Scratch. And a lot of people are familiar with that. So brought the laptop into a DJ booth to really have that product take off. We addressed what was then an issue with content. And I was one of the founders of Beatport. So after Beatport, we exited. I was there 9 years. We founded Plus 8 Equity Partners. We were early investors in Splice, Lander, and are very proud of our portfolio. So we're still proud to be active in the scene. And here I am, and happy to share some of my thoughts and ideas with everyone.
Thank you, John. Tim.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's wonderful to be here with an illustrious group of people with lots of experience from various different angles. So, yeah, I mean, my musical life started as a performing musician. So I have always been inspired by the idea of music as an interaction rather than just a product. So I cut my artist career in the early days around building technology that would allow me to improvise and create music spontaneously in the moment. So for me, music creation is always a conversation, as it always has been, and has huge potential for that mode of musicality to expand in the future. So my only gig nowadays is running Endless, which is a live collaborative music creation platform, and we're building basically an end-to-end platform for music creation, sharing, discovery, consumption, and it all revolves around interacting musically in real time, spontaneously. So in the last few months, we've got very interested in NFTs. The main reason for us experimenting with NFTs is that the success of our platform will stand or fall on the ability for the people who create magic on our platform to actually realize the value of that magic. I've always been crypto curious, and as soon as the three letters gained prominence, I was like, okay, this is our chance to at least thematically explore how the amazing community on our platform can actually start to realize the value of the magic they create with our tools.
Sarah.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. So I'm Sarah. I make music. I'm a singer, songwriter, music producer. And before doing that, I was working in IT for a very long time. I used to make mobile apps at the beginning of the iPhone. So I've always been really interested in technology and the way we can, mix art and be creative with that. And at the moment, I'm also PhD candidate at the University of the West of England, and I'm interested in experimental philosophy of art and post-human ethics, which means basically that I'm using my practice as an artist to answer a philosophical question that revolves around the way we basically are going to build a set of values in the digital world around art, because I think that we are at a point where we really think about these things, and we've sort of reached a climax in terms of ethical concerns with technology. And so we're going through a crisis that is on the same scale as climate change. And so we, as artists, I think we have the responsibility to be involved in that transformation and ask for systemic change. So I'm interested in the question of blockchain technology. I think that is really very interesting because it's only the tip, NFTs are only the tip of the iceberg. And I think that we can do a lot of things with that. So, yay.
Thank you. Rick.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for having me. I'm Rick Heffernan. I'm heading up business development at Utopia Genesis Foundation. So we're a Swiss-based music tech startup. We're building products for the music industry on the blockchain, namely the tokenization of music copyrights, NFTs, staking and yield farming towards our native token. I'm also the co-founder at Lighton, where we handle major music to brand endorsement deals and partnerships, particularly in emerging markets with a focus on Russia. And I'm also label manager of De Gustibus Music, a 10-year-old boutique underground electronic label out of Venice, Italy, which I share with Cristiano Spiller of Groovejet fame, if anybody remembers that track. We just re-released it on Defected. I've worked with companies like Red Bull, Alpha Bank, Yandex, and Miller towards their music strategies. And I've also worked with everybody in the past, from Skepta to Nile Rodgers to Grimes, and even Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, to name a few. And prior to that, I was a traditional promoter, running clubs and booking artists, typically underground electronic artists, all around Europe.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to Ali.
First of all, Cliff, Walifornia, both, thanks so much for having us and hosting the panel. Excited to be here. My name is Ali Samadpur. I'm the founder of Prescient Digital. I've been working in the music marketing space for, 8 years now, working on event marketing and working on actually marketing artists as well. Primarily in the electronic music space, but then I've done some work in rap music as well. I'm also the co-founder of Modular Merch with my partner Philip Gunawan in Germany, and we are running a merchandising business, basically A to Z for musicians. Will design, produce, fulfill all of your orders. We just did products for Maceo-Plex and Luciano, and we're also working with a couple of corporate businesses. And then in my free time, I'm exploring the metaverse and NFTs, working closely with John from this panel as well. So doing a little bit of everything in the music space right now.
Great. Thanks, Ali. We will be coming back to the metaverse, I'm sure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw some questions out to the panel, and they're going to give us their wisdom as well, and have hopefully the chance as well. If there are any questions at the end, we can find some time to put those to the panelists. But John, I'd like to start for you. One of the questions I'm asked the most is about the hype around NFTs. There's some people saying that it's a kind of reaction to the pandemic and people being locked away and going crazy. There's other people who are saying, actually, no, this is the start of something huge and it's real and it's a thing. What's your sense?
Well, it's a pretty broad question, and I think kind of like all of the above, it has come to the fore given the pandemic. You know, the need to make revenues brought a number of things. The two big things that we saw and we looked at inordinate amount of companies were, you know, streaming. There was the big rush on streaming, and then NFTs. NFTs have been around. And they're really kind of a small subset of crypto. So without getting into the whole philosophical angle of crypto, I feel I've reached a tipping point. I mean, it's a digital Tower of Babel, to use a quick sort of reference. Another reference I've made is it's like VHS and beta times 100, you know, and I think VHS and beta is kind of like Dapper Labs and Ethereum. And then everything else is like, what is that format? And so it's really confusing to the industry insiders, let alone the outsiders. But I try to draw examples from the past, and I think for the sake of conversation, I put a few easy ones, comparables out there, and that's sort of how I see it. But I think we've reached the tipping point. Now, I will speak to the fact that music is a commodity. Art, got a lot of attention, but music is a commodity. When you buy an album, at least in the old days, I'm an old guy, I kind of buy it and hold it. I might buy art to flip it one day when I die. I'm still a buy and hold guy, but some people speculate. Music is the least speculative of some of these things out there, because people have an emotional attachment to this piece of art. Now, I think the secondary market provides a lot of comfort if it can, live up to what it claims it will. Because I think artists should get residuals. I think, when I equate the secondary market of a music release to residuals, great. I also equate the past of a limited edition colored vinyl or a limited edition artwork. That to me is NFTable. So we're not having to reinvent the wheel. And then lastly, and a really important cog, that dawned on us as we were trying to define some things to build around, which, to me gives it tangible, kind of credible viability, is music, after coming out of the, disaster of the internet, is selling, digital files with metadata. So an NFT is just the complete metadata. Now, it may not be able to still come all in one, but music already has a digital component of metadata. So an NFT is just the ultimate extension of metadata. It'll include the contract. It'll include. So when I start to look at it that way, there's a lot to be excited about. We just got to clarify the matter a little bit, right? So I'm committed. But here we go. I'll leave it to everyone else.
Well, no, John, you played a number of hooks that we're going to be picking up along the line. So it was the perfect way to start. Tim, at Endless, you're about creating these, unique musical moments, as it were. You're a collaboration tool, you're gamification. Why is the world of NFT so interesting to a platform like Endless?
Well, I think there are many NFTs are actually already quite a broad church, I would say, in terms of the kind of a value that they allow people to realize that value, collect it, trade it. I think some of the most successful NFT projects we've seen so far have they've pretty much all been outside of music. NBA Top Shots. I thought particularly, Jack Dorsey selling his first tweet was they were all the big headline grabbers, alongside the Beeple sale. Obviously, that grabbed headlines for just for the price tag, etc. But I think there's something to do with that social proof and bragging rights of being able to own a certain kind of poignant moment in space time, as a friend of mine, a real sort of crypto nerd friend of mine put it. It's about owning a piece of space and time, that piece of space and time where something really magic happened. And I think NBA Top Shots are kind of the epitome of that. And the way people interact on Endless is it's all about, it's ritualistic. People come together, they create music spontaneously. Sometimes they sit back and listen. Sometimes they step forward and create. And what happens there is it's a very different dynamic to the way the traditional sort of production consumption music industry, where you have a very small set of elite producers who then go through, who are gate kept, and then in occasional instances allowed through the gates to then distribute through this worldwide network. You know, the way we're positioning music is much more as it's a social ritual. It's something that can be very meaningful between a very small number of people. But there's always the possibility that in rare circumstances, some magic moment will go on to become incredibly poignant. So we actually did an NFT project with Imogen Heap, where Imogen Heap's been using Endless for a long time. She's done a lot of collaborations, and we together we kind of co-curated 6 riffs that marked key moments in her journey on Endless, and we auctioned those off as NFTs. And I think that's it's these genesis moments. Genesis is a very big word in the world of NFTs. It's very important what the genesis is, and it's all about storytelling. It's all about provenance. It's all about multiple conditions coming together to give rise to this very symbolic moment. And I think that that's where certainly from the lens of Endless and what we're trying to do, and as I mentioned earlier, realizing the value of the magic that people create on the platform, it's certainly a really good way to allow the value of serendipity to grow over time.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, look, Sarah, I'm going to take some of those wonderful phrases that Tim used: magic's poignant moments in space-time, creativity, serendipity, and we set out there as well, you're a doctor to be, you're a nerd, you're a geek. I say all of those things with the highest of compliments, of course, but you're also an artist. And I'd love to get the sort of an artist perspective on this. Is what about them are most important for you? Do you see them as a tool for engagement, or for commerce, or to be more creative, or maybe something else?
Well, I guess to me, the main point, the thing that I find the most interesting is that to me, it's like the manifestation of, the need for systemic change for the digital world and culture, specifically. I think that, the model that we have right now, as John was saying, like streaming, social media, it doesn't work for artists. You can't make money out of that for, apart maybe for a couple of people, but and it also feels like, it's just like there's so much stuff everywhere. You've got fast food, fast fashion, and it feels like fast culture now. So I think that, the blockchain in general, technologies and NFTs are just like, the way out of this system, like trying to find something that's different, trying to take back culture online and, take back art basically, and our work, and trying to be paid directly for what we make, and just like trying to make the system a bit more sustainable and just for everyone. So I think that the main thing that I find interesting is that. So obviously there are like other ethical concerns with blockchain in general, the way it works, etc. So it's kind of like it's still like the early phase right now, and we don't really understand it, fully. But yeah, I guess that, for me is the main thing, that it's interesting. And also I think that, it's, I don't think that it's just like a hype thing. I think that it's a real question. And I think that we're going to talk about it for a long time, even though like, at the beginning it's like new and loads of people are going into it, and there's like a lot of speculation around it, and you've got ego and money people just like throwing themselves at it. But I think that we have like a real opportunity to change the system in general. And if we stop for a minute and just like ask the right questions, I think that it could be something wonderful for the arts on the internet in general. So yeah,
so an inflection point and a point to take back control, the phrase that will send chills down many of the Brits' spines. But that shows it's an important thing, right? Over to you, Rick. One of the things that John talked about being a really important use case for NFTs was this issue of metadata and better data as well. You know, and how does Utopia Genesis? You mentioned that you were building businesses on the blockchain. How do you see NFTs and how they can bring value to a wider music ecosystem rather than just the artist and fan engagement?
Well, the way we see it on our end is the tokenization of music copyright NFTs, basically, which is what we're gearing towards. That's kind of the foundation of our company. It is something we feel brings value to parts of the music ecosystem, namely the artists, the fans, the catalog, and the copyright owners. So I think one thing we need to look at is what is tokenization in the first place. So tokenization is having your music copyrights digitally represented on the blockchain. And this allows for fractional ownership with usage conditions embedded on a smart contract and monetary transactions typically taking place via, in Ethereum-based cryptocurrencies. And if the platform supports fiat, which is much better option right now, I would say, because, the whole crypto space is not at mass adoption point quite yet. And then the next question is, why would you want to sell your music copyright as an NFT in the first place? For which we would just need to look at kind of major label deals or DSP deals, which unless you have like serious superstar leverage behind you, they're not great historically. So some of the value points we're seeing in kind of tokenizing your NFT copyrights are you keep 100% of the copyright and you have freedom to sell a percentage of the mechanical, the performance, or the sync royalty if you wish. You can open up your catalog from fan to institutional level investment on a global scale. Because typically now, if anybody wants to invest in music copyrights, they kind of need to be a big player or, living within a certain capital bracket to be able to do that. It's not really for everybody yet. But with tokenization, it will allow that basically. Given the nature of the blockchain, you have full transparency as to, what's being paid, when it's coming in, having instant access to that information as well as the funds. Near real-time transactions 24/7 365. You can also have on your copyright automatic splits, which is basically if you have collaborators working on your music, everyone gets paid their share right away via what's called a smart contract. So just to touch on that lightly, so a smart contract is effectively a piece of code that automates the execution of an agreement and it's embedded within your NFT. You can have a reduction of intermediaries potentially. You can kind of shave away some of the middlemen who might be cutting into your margins. Community building with your fan base because they can invest and share in the success of your future releases. Rewards for your fan base in terms of a percentage of the royalty returns on the incentives. Percentage being sold by the artist could be looked at effectively as another part of merch. And one of the most interesting, I think, is secondary sales for artists. So if you sell your NFT with a music copyright inside in it, every time that gets resold on a secondary market, you're entitled to a percentage of that, which is very interesting. That's for perpetuity. So it's very, very interesting because we haven't really seen that before. Once an artist sells something, it's gone and that's it. They don't see it again. I would also say as well, the copyrights being sold, via the blockchain, it's kind of, there's a whole new breed of customer there, like looking for alternative investments. I mean, particularly blockchain natives who are, they're looking for NFTs that are unique and they're scarce and they're creative. And the music industry or music copyright can tend to tick all of those boxes at once. And lastly, I would say that, those are kind of the main advantages we see in kind of tokenizing your music copyright NFTs. And to kind of do that as well, you're kind of pushing into kind of securities. So it requires a security token to kind of let that happen, which is something that we actually have here at the Utopia Genesis Foundation. And I think the last thing I would add is probably like the current state of NFTs is like, it's the first commercially successful interaction between the music industry and blockchain technology. Even though some artists have been experimenting for years already, we're going back maybe 5 or 6 years in terms of guys like RAC or Grammatic. In my own personal opinion, I think we're just getting started.
Great. So we're at the end of the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And let me hand over to Ali. Ali, yet another aspect of NFTs is how labels and artists can use this for marketing and engagement. What are your senses on what works and doesn't work and what the potential is for NFTs to help be able to cut through in this very crowded and noisy marketplace?
Sure. So I think Rick made some excellent points about this just being the very beginning. It really is. It's an exciting space to be in because we're just really getting started. So I think NFTs as a whole are doing quite well in regards to actual marketing. So for activations, you can use them. Businesses can use them to create like unique brand experiences, gain brand awareness, and more of like a PR slam dunk. A good example was Taco Bell when they launched their NFT. They just auctioned off a bunch of their gifts, and then what ended up happening was all of the proceeds from that went to a college fund to put their employees through university. So that was like a PR home run for them. And I think as more big companies get into it, there goes my cat. As more big companies get into this, more and more artists are going to get on board too. So once those corporate people exit, the artists are going to get on board. But right now, when I look at it from a music industry standpoint, I think we're at a position where we can kind of reimagine what that artist and label to fan connection looks like. Personally, I don't feel connected to any artist right now because everything is so accessible. I'm constantly being sold to on Instagram, on Spotify. Things are constantly getting crammed down my throat. I don't feel like I have a relationship with any artist. And I think we're in a position with NFTs to sort of redefine that, like a digital fan club 2.0. And a great example of this would be like if we started a fan club for 500 people only, it could be like a legacy record label with a long history of just putting out hits for 2 decades. And we could do something where it's like, you'll get access to the entire back catalog, you'll get free releases for a year, guest lists to select events, exclusive merch, just something that's unique. And you price it at a quarter of an Ethereum, which is about $600 right now. And you limit it to 500 spots. Now for the business, they're going to get 600 people who are interested in their product. They're going to get actual merch pushed out. They're going to generate 125 Ethereum, which is about $300,000. And for a legacy label, that's a significant amount of money. But then, as Rick mentioned, those NFTs could be resold to higher bidders. So it's exclusive, it's valuable, it's unique. And one of the prime examples I've seen right now is this Dutch Iranian artist named Sevdaliza. And she just put out her NFT, I think a month or two ago, and she collaborated with another artist to create art and bring some of her artworks to life. And then what's happening with that is when you buy her NFT, you get unlimited access to shows for the next 3 years. You get like a private FaceTime or like a one-on-one session with her once a year for 3 years. And then you get lifetime access to a private community. And the private community is where it becomes valuable because even if you don't kick those people out once the hands change, you still have a private fan base that you have access to that you can market to directly. You're not held to the social media algorithms or anything like that. You have your super fans who have already put $1,000 into your brand, and you can continue to sell to them with exclusive experiences down the line as well. A good way to kind of like explain this is Ryan Leslie has the 1,000 True Fans. This is kind of like an extension of that. So the 1,000 True Fans who will spend $1,000 is more valuable to you and your business than having 100,000 streams where you're going to make a third of a cent per stream. So the finances, the marketing, this is just the 2.0. We're going into the future once people start adopting it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Tim because I'm not sure we have John still. So Tim, talk to me. It's one of the things that you didn't come to, but one of the things that Endless is great at is people being able to cross-pollinate and be able to sort of collaborate, as it were. What about the world of NFTs? And if we look at, sort of the breeding and cross-pollination that happened with CryptoKitties and things like that, is that something that interests you inherently about NFTs?
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, it's something particularly when we did the Imogen Heap drop, we wanted to bake all the collaborators into the smart contract, and there actually wasn't a way to do that, which is kind of crazy because this is one of the big things around NFT, blockchain technology, is that you can bake people into bake the splits into the smart contract. So we actually we ended up having to do the splits off chain, which I think is an indication of where we're at in terms of execution and where we're at as referred to the vision. But yeah, I mean, I think it's massively important. If you only have to look to TikTok, for example, to see the power of, if you allow people to collaborate within very slick, very frictionless user experiences, you can massively leverage network effects. And I think once we bring transactions into that ecosystem as well, then it's going to be even more powerful. And particularly, with Endless, we track authorship of everything as it goes through the platform. So if you contribute something to a riff now, and 100 iterations later, there's still something by you in there. Currently you're attributed in the platform. When we eventually get to actually creating a transaction infrastructure around Endless, then you'll be baked into, your split will be baked into anywhere where that content goes and generates revenue. So from a business perspective, I think it's massively powerful. But also from a cultural perspective, I mean, this is the most interesting. Well, as you talked about crypto kitties and sort of crossbreeding and stuff like that. This is where new genres come from. They come from the collision of two different cultures, and something new, something greater than the sum of those two parts emerges and defines a new. Can end up going on to define a generation. So I think creating infrastructure, which it's not where people would like us to think it is right now, and I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and I'm really interested in being involved in that work that's being done. But I think it's going to collaborative splits will just have a huge impact on culture in general. I think the fluidity of culture.
Great. Okay. And with that, I'm going to go back to John actually, and just pick on one of the points that Ali mentioned about seeing this as a kind of metaversal thing. But do you see, if you had to choose, if you were splitting NFTs as currencies or assets or engagement tools, you mentioned it could be any of those three, as it were. If you were to rank those, where do you think NFTs are going to end up?
Well, NFTs are a real subset of blockchain, and I'll be a little cheeky philosophically on this, and that and this will lead into the universe. So a lot of people, cryptocurrency, the big thing with a lot of people touting cryptocurrency is they don't believe in fiat currency. If we apply a religious analogy, it's hard to have faith in things that you were told had meaning. But if you take the logical, kind of argument that if religion doesn't work, is spirituality the same? Or some people, so I think that crypto is spirituality to fiat currency's religion. So I'm a postmodern sort of philosopher. I just got out of that rabbit hole. So there's a lot not to believe. So crypto kitties has a value if you have faith. So there's a lot of fiat in all of these things, right? Now, if we start with a simple assumption that there is worth if we circulate paper money or tokens. So be careful, people with tokens. They're not as good as monopoly money, and they're certainly not as good as your country's money. You may hate your country, but at least your government has some reserves and assets. And look at all the scandals of all these two people, too clever than holier than thou, running off with people's money because they're smart, they run out. So let's bring it back. But I wanted to put those cheeky little arguments forth, and I use them a lot just for the sake of argument. And I think they're helpful in an argument when we can draw those quick analogies, sound bites from, when I try to draw historical ones. What's missing from when I said that there needs to be, it's a digital Tower of Babel. What happens is some people with the proprietary blockchain, it actually, instead of what should be a freewheeling marketplace, what the internet was about. I'm a free market libertarian. Proprietary stuff makes it really almost virtual toll booths. okay, or hiccups. They're road bumps and where we need to go. So where we need to go is start having a higher concept, a higher understanding. And leading us into this metaverse question is, I'll throw one more word in concept: interoperability. Okay, so tokens are like having pounds, euros, or pounds, francs, drachmas, and a lot of that stuff, for anyone who's old enough to travel, was a piece of crap. And that's what tokens are right now. We need to do better than that. We need to use interoperability. Let's quickly, and I'll close quickly with the internet. You know, the internet really figured out how to be interoperable, and that turned a lot of us on. And here we are, kids of the internet. So the internet, when AOL had an email, or now with Google, you notice how everyone in their servers, these proprietary kingdoms were able to be interoperable, right? Tokens better get their SHIT together. Blockchain companies better get their SHIT together, because it's the same thing as having it just doesn't work right now, because everyone's trying to build their own little kingdom and they're not taking that step. So I'll leave it to the rest to talk about the metaverse, but I think that certainly, thanks for giving me that law, because Ali and I spoke about that, and I feel very strongly about that. However, you need to make money to be able to afford to get to the metaverse. So that's the challenge with people: make your money, but have an eye on being interoperable, so you're actually a viable part of an ecosystem and a structure.
Great. Okay. Well, let's get our shit together. On that subject, Sarah,
not the panel, but the industry.
Yeah. So it's always the difference between knowing your shit and knowing your shit, right? Anyway, Sarah, one question for you. One observation that people have had is that people have tried to take existing experiences and turn them into NFTs. What are the opportunities from an artist's perspective to create new experiences in a music and fan context, rather than just adopting those old ways of interacting?
Yeah, I think that's the the door that's opening as well, because the thing that we have with social media and streaming is just like this this experience, this 2.0 experience. I think that blockchain and NFTs are like, yeah, the opportunity to enhance the music experience and the art experience in general. So I think there's like loads of things to do with VR and AI, and just like play with that, and just probably make the music experience evolve in a way, and yeah, just make it more interesting. And also the way you communicate with fan, for engagement, for instance. And yeah, I think that it's the way we understand it right now is very not clear. It's not accessible to everyone. People are just like that. It's just like this thing. We don't really understand what it. It's a bit of code that you own. But yeah, I think that we still need to do more research and do more experiment to really come up with something that will be like really interesting when it comes to music. And yeah, I think that the more people experiment with it, the more we'll have like an idea of what's the thing we want to go towards. So that's my view as an artist, but I guess my other concern is as an activist. I think that we can't escape that question of blockchain is not sustainable right now. It's I think that it's Jaron Lanier, the computer philosopher. He says that if for blockchain to be sustainable, we would have to put the servers on the moon, and he's like really serious about it. So I think that we the mining thing and the proof of work algorithm is just it's just not sustainable. And I think that we need to wait a little bit and see and try to find a way to make it more less hungry in terms of energy. Sorry. So yeah. So I guess that I feel a bit tortured between the two, because I really want to try it myself. I'm playing with VR at the moment and loads of different stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm trying not to eat meat, and just I'm vegan, and I'm not I don't own a car, and if I do NFTs, it's just there's like an ethical problem for me at the moment. So Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm going to come over to Rick and Ali for a couple of questions in rapid fire, because amazingly we're coming to the end of our slot actually. But Rick, if you wouldn't mind coming back to me and just give me an idea of the most things that you're looking forward to the most in the world of NFTs, and then Ali, I'd like to come to you to really talk about what the most creative uses of NFTs you've seen outside the music industry, perhaps to finish us off. So Rick, over to you.
Yeah, I would say the things I'm looking forward to the most absolutely is the UX getting easier for a start, because the UX is 99% of the people, they might not know how to use it, how to engage with a crypto wallet, how to swap out currencies, how to use Uniswap or SushiSwap if they're buying something in Ethereum or wrapped Ethereum. Like all of this is still, like, for people in the crypto world, they might not, understand. This is very niche for your everyday person on the street. Like, it takes a little bit of understanding around it. So for the UX side to get a lot easier, and just be a lot more user friendly, I would say. And also I'm looking forward to Ethereum scaling out to proof of stake, which we've been waiting for quite some time now, just in terms of a reduction of energy usage, and the gas fees have got to go. The gas fees are simply too high. They vary depending on what time you go on the internet during the day or what time you're accessing the blockchain, and they're just astronomically too high. In terms of creativity, I'll be really, really quick, and I'll just say I'm looking forward to kind of more NFTs of avatars appearing on kind of VR setups like Oculus, for example. NFTs of albums, there are different versions. I mean, we can look back at Kanye West, who released The Life of Pablo several times over because he kept on making little changes and switches, which was extremely cool. I don't think that had been done before. But, we'll see albums that have kind of got extra production on them coming out as limited edition NFTs or collaborations as NFTs, in terms of extra people appearing on an album. I'm also looking forward to kind of cross-platform virtual merch for use in the metaverse. Now that's something that's a little bit conceptual at the moment, but just to give an example, if I bought, for example, a Metallica t-shirt for my avatar, he could use it in Decentraland, and he could also use it in Sandbox or Minecraft, or any of these basically. So that's something also. And lastly, I would say, like, probably tokenized touring is something I'm looking forward to when it eventually comes around, and more gigs in the metaverse by promoters buying NFT land parcels to build venues on. Yasta.
A very long list. I'm going to give a final word to Ali. Come on, Ali. What's the best uses that you've seen and the most creative uses that you've seen?
Cliff, I'm going to quickly answer this question, and then I'm going to touch on what Sarah had talked about, sustainability. For me, the slam dunk is the Beeple one that sold for $69.3 million. It, for me, symbolized the amount of dumb money that's actually in this space and in crypto right now. People don't have a true understanding of what their crypto assets are actually worth. The reality is a lot of these people who are buying at these astronomical prices bought into Ethereum when it was $3 or $30. So they don't have a true concept of what this money's worth because they've had such a windfall with it. So they don't have a concept of what the value of these things are. So they're spending stupid money on stupid things, in my opinion. But going back to the comments on sustainability and the economic or the ecological impact of NFT, respectfully, I think it's bullshit. I don't know if I can swear or not. I don't care about the economic or the ecological impact or the environmental impact because it is so negligible. They're talking about the mining taking up, the power of one country on an annual basis, but it's a small country. It ends up being less than 1% of the world's power is used for something like this. NFTs and even the crypto space as a whole is a sign. It's a paradigm shift, really. It's taking money away. Artists have been getting robbed for generations. For decades, artists have been getting robbed. And to put this environmental impact in front of them and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this, is just an effort to stop these artists from getting compensated fairly for what they want. Get rid of this environmental impact because, in my opinion, it's irrelevant. Put money back in the hands of the artists, the ones who actually deserve it. NFTs are a way to do that. The old system is just not working. So I think this is really like BS to say environmental impact is a major thing to consider. It's not. Let's get money in the hands of the artists who deserve to be compensated fairly.
Well, I mean, there is a spicy debate in order to that I'm sure will run and run and run. And it's, as Ali
if
says,
we had time, I would keep going, but I know we're a little tight.
Yeah,
but
me
bring
too.
me back.
I would like, yeah. I wouldn't tell you that, but
I'm sure we can.
let's see what happens.
Even though I work with Ollie, I like Sarah's even though I work with Ollie, I'll debate him privately. I do take that artist, and I think it's right to be idealistic. We have a chance to do it now. We have a chance to do it now. So let's not just accept the crap that is in front of ourselves. I spoke to the future needs to be better. So you have to think about the future now. And if it's wrong now, it'll be wrong in the future. But I love you anyways, Ali. And you're mostly right.
We'll continue this debate offline, and it will run and run and run.
Sarah, respect.
And all respect to all of our panel. So I want to say huge thanks to John, Tim, to Sarah, to Rick, and to Ali as well. We're going to continue the debate offline. I hope you guys are too. And I'll hand back over to the team at California. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much, panel. Thanks, Cliff. That you left us on a cliffhanger, didn't you? We need part 2 for sure. Great stuff. We're straight into our next panel, which is AI and recommendation. Here's the video. We'll see you after.